Hello and welcome back to Ames's Corner. How's it going today, guys? I got 10 questions to answer that you guys have asked over the past week, and I think this one's going to be an alright list. We start off, the first 3 questions are about the Sonnet. So question number 10, why do I love my Saab Sonet? Why don't I love my Saab Sonet? It's rare, it's unique, it's the only one I've ever seen, which coming from me is pretty big. I've seen a lot of weird, quirky cars, but actually why I love that car the most is because of the condition it was when I got it. That car was pretty much junk. It was destined to be a parts car. The floors were rotted out, the trunk was rotted out, the floors rotted out so bad it rotted the underneath of the dashboard out. Yeah, the underneath of the dashboard's rotted out. And my plan for that car was to use the Sonnet fiberglass body and make a chassis out of a late model car. But I drove that car home with no floors, no trunk, just dust getting all in my face, and it was such a blast that I had to commit to that car and save it and make it run as long as it could. And it's been, I think we're coming up on 3 years now. It'll be coming up on 3 years now. That's still going. And that's why I love that car, because it was a lost cause when I got it. And I was able to save it, and I'm just continue to enjoy it, and I continue to show you guys. So that's why I like that car so much. Other than the fact that it's unique, it's just that it was something I really saved and really kept out of the cabbage. Number 9, where did I get the shift knob that's in that Sonnet? Some of you might have noticed I got that little take, the smiley face. What is it? The shit happens smiley face. That is just kind of an evil, smiling looking thing, and I got that just at AutoZone. I just went and that's what they had. The original shift knob, right after I got the car going, the shifter was really stiff, and the original knob just kind of split like an apple. So I had to put something on, and I went and I saw that, and I said, that's perfect, the yellow of it. And when I bring it to car shows, when that car goes to car shows, the kids really like it, because the car is so low, they can walk right up, look in the windows, and that seems to be the first thing that the youth sees, and I think it fits the car well. Number 8, what's up with the headliner in the Saab Sonet? Well, there is no headliner in the Saab Sonet. I used to just have a Naugahyde brown fabric on top, fake leather fabric, and it was hanging down, hit me on the head, and I just got sick of that, so I ripped it off, and I just haven't gotten around to doing whatever I'm going to do with that. I'm kind of toying with the idea of just painting the headliner, just making it paint. It's not something I really care about too much. The car runs and drives and looks well and really stands up at a car show. So we'll see what happens with that. So, number 7. Now, a lot of you guys are going to remember on the top speed run for a burger, right around the corner, we stopped and looked at that 98 Saab 9000 at that little dealership. So that's a good question. So why don't we take a little road trip and see what's going on? So here we are, wonderful New England weather we got going on. It's actually not too bad of a day, but let's take a little walk and see if that 9000 is still a thing. So I actually stopped in that little dealership yesterday. I was on my way home, and I saw a guy at that dealership moving some cars around, getting ready for the impending storm we got coming here. Seemed like a really nice guy, actually. Seemed like a really nice guy, and he said he wasn't really worried about getting rid of that car. And let's take that little walk and go see why he's not real worried about that car leaving right now, and why I'm not really worried about it being bought out. Also, he went on to mention that somebody saw that 9000 on the internet, on YouTube, and they emailed the guy to buy it. So one of you guys, you know who you are apparently, watching my videos, trying to scalp a car out from underneath me. So I gotta watch out what I show you guys apparently, huh? That's all right. If you really want it, you can have it. I'll find another one. But being a 98, being a 98 Saab 9000, that's probably one of the rarest Saab 9000s in America. It would be a 98. I know it was a real low number of those was imported the last year of them. I'm sure one of you guys will do the research and mention in the comments just how many of those 98s were delivered here. And it's one of those cases where I think they were just trying to get rid of the parts they had. I believe in 98 the deal with Garrett, the turbocharger manufacturer, kind of went south, maybe because they were ending production of the cars, and most of these 98s are pretty much aeros. You know, they got the 16-inch super aero with the open lug wheels, which are pretty rare and really nice looking. And then most of them had the Mitsubishi TD04 turbo. Although I've heard rumors that some 98s still had the Garretts, which would make sense that they might have had, you know, a certain amount of stock on those parts. So we'll have to see. I haven't been able to really get into this car and look at it, and I don't think we're going to really see a whole lot of it today, other than where it is and why the guy that owns it, the dealer, is not too hot to do anything with it. And I think that that's kind of the sentiment at every car dealer around here with cars that aren't frontline stuff. I mean, they only want $500 for that Saab 9000 with 200,000 miles. You can tell he's not looking to get a lot of profit. There's not a lot of profit to be made on a car that old. We're almost there here. You can actually see the dealership right there. That's how close I am to this one. You know, Saab 9000 right in my backyard. I could actually buy that car and just drive it home. You know, I don't need to register it to go from there to there. I mean, I've driven my Sonet that far without plates on it back before I registered it. Whew. Got my my shit kicker boots on. Need those in this kind of weather. Probably, you know, probably good 4.5 inches, coming up on 5 inches. And the storm hasn't even started yet. They say it hasn't even started yet. This is supposed to go on for like 3-4 days of what we got right now. I'd say it's probably 2 inches an hour we're getting at this point. That's a lot. That's a lot for a lot of hours. Well, here we are at that dealer. You guys want to call him up and buy a car here? There's his phone number. Now, see this snowbank? See this snowbank right here? That's a pretty icy snowbank. And it has a Saab 9000, nice juicy Saab 9000 filling. And there it is right there. And I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. And this isn't really snow anymore. This is just a bank of ice that, you know, you ain't getting into. And let's see if, oh man, look how deep it is, huh? See what we got here. Here we go on the side. Yeah. I think this is. This, oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's that juicy, sorry. There's that juicy filling. You all know what that A-pillar is right there, I'm sure. All you Saab 9000 freaks out there like me. All you freaks like me. Yeah. Yeah. This is it. Boy, I wish I'd get a look at those quarters. That's really what you got to look out for on these cars, is back here on the wheel arches. Rotten out. I just opened the door. But yeah, This is why I haven't bought it yet, because because it ain't going anywhere. It's here for the duration, guys. I mean, look at this. It's pretty friggin' deep. Oh man, boys, I'm gonna need some help getting out of here. Wow. So yeah. So there it is. So I think I've kind of made the decision. This is going to be Saab 9000 number 4 for me. Looks like I got plenty of time to save up the money for it now, huh, boys? Well, anyways, there's I hope that answers that question about the Saab 9000. So I got to get back. I got to dig myself out of here. We'll get back there and answer the rest of those questions, guys. This one I'm going to keep out of the cabbage. Yeah, what do you think, guys? What do you think? That Saab 9000. I'm going to keep that one out of the cabbage. Boy, it was still cold from that one. Still going to warm my hands up here. It's a little chilly out there today, huh? Well, that one's kind of come home with me. I talked to the guy. I talked to the dealership, and that's pretty much mine whenever I want to grab it. Number 6, do mechanics mind doing small work for the do-it-yourselfers? Say you take the strut out of your car. You need a strut. These struts are blown right out. You can't take the spring off without special equipment. You got to compress the spring, and it's not something a homeowner is going to have. I mean, yeah, sure, they make cheap little screw versions that you can kind of work with, but if you're only doing one strut, it doesn't make sense to buy these tools. So we get that a lot, where someone that's pretty technically savvy, able to wrench on their own cars, the shade tree mechanic, needs a bearing pressed or a strut done. No, we don't mind at all. We don't mind that at all. As long as you come in and you leave the part, and there's really not a lot of mechanics going to have problems. They'll charge you what it took to do it, which is going to be far less than doing the job. So no, by and large, we don't mind doing small jobs for do-it-yourselfers, as long as you're patient and understanding that we have other bigger jobs to do. So no, we don't mind that at all. Number 5. I just bought a late model Infiniti, and it has a dead battery, and I'm worried about hooking the battery up. And that's a pretty valid question, especially on an Infiniti. Manufacturers kind of realize that at some point in a vehicle's life, the battery's going to fail and it's going to go dead. There really isn't anything that's going to fry or get damaged as long as you install the battery correctly. You don't install it reverse polarity backwards or anything, or try to charge it backwards. That will cause some issues. We had a Mercedes in where someone tried to jump start it and they put the cables on wrong and fried every module in the car, and it would have been, literally no lie, $15,000 it would have cost to replace all those modules. So you just got to be really careful. Always start with the negative terminal. Never start taking the positive, or put the positive, always start with the negative terminal. I kind of got backwards there for a second. That way you don't arc your wrench out, loosening the negative, because the negative's grounded. You want to do the negative and then the positive. One thing we've seen with actually Infinitis themselves is the power windows are kind of programmable power windows, where you've got to take the door panel off. There's a button on the window regulator you have to press. What'll happen is the windows will go up, and then you'll take your hand off the button and they'll go down 6 inches or so every time. You can hold it up, shut the ignition off, hold it for a few seconds, and you can get the windows up in a pinch. Another thing that's going to happen when the battery's been disconnected for a long time, and sometimes if a battery's disconnected and loses power at all, is the readiness monitors, all the little tests that a car has to do to make sure everything's working right. We call those readiness monitors, and that's what, when you get an inspection sticker, that's what they're checking when they plug into your car. Those are all going to be reset just like you just cleared all the codes. Some other things that get reset on these newer cars is we got electronic fly-by-wire throttles in everything now, and sometimes those will lose their adaptation. The transmissions will lose their shift point adaptations. a lot of newer cars will learn how you like to drive. If you're hard on the throttle all the time, it'll tighten up the shift points, it'll tighten up the throttle response, versus if you're a hyper miler, it will adapt to how you drive. All of that's going to be reset. So we've had times where we've replaced batteries in these newer cars. The customer leaves, comes back 10-15 minutes later and say it doesn't shift the same. The throttle doesn't feel the same, and that's because the car has to relearn everything that it got erased when the battery got taken out. So as long as you put the battery in, you might have some deal with your windows. You might have to pull your door panels off and do that reset. But it's fairly straightforward, and there's a lot of videos on YouTube about resetting those windows. There's a lot of forum posts you're going to find. So hook that battery up, and you might have a few little issues, but nothing to get in a twist about. You'll get it. Number 4, how do I shut the maintenance minder off on my FJ Cruiser? A lot of newer cars will have the little thing that tells you when to get your oil change. You have so many miles, or sometimes they just come on saying it's time to change the oil. There's really no standard to how these work, how they're reset, or what actually goes into making that mileage, that trip for that oil maintenance light. Some cars will see how long you've driven, a time. Some will just, it's different on all of them, but specifically on an FJ and most Toyotas, what you're going to do is you're going to start with your car, you're keying the ignition off. You're going to hold the odometer reset button, your trip reset button. You're going to turn the ignition to run, not to start, and you'll see these little dashes one at a time fade down. When they get to 0, then your maintenance minder is reset. That's general on all Toyotas. If that doesn't work, what you're going to need to do, and I don't know why they did this and Toyotas did this, is you got to have it on trip A. You press your little reset button, it'll go trip A, trip B, and then show you the mileage. Go to trip A, shut the car off, hold the button, turn it down, you'll see the same little check marks will flash down and you'll be reset. Another thing I like is there's what I use on my phone when I'm at work. I usually use this at work so I can be backing the car out and looking it up. It's something called oilreset.com, and it's a real simple little site you go to on your phone. You can go to it on your computer. You just type in the make, model, and year of your car, and it gives you really good step-by-step instructions on resetting your oil light. So again, that's oilreset.com, oilreset.com. And I use that all the time, and I recommend it to anybody trying to shut maintenance lights off in a hurry. If you got a lot of cars to do, a lot of oil changes coming in and out, Oil Reset's my friend. I hope it helps you guys out too. Number 3. Now this is kind of a question that's hard to answer, and this is a question I see a lot. Not necessarily the question, but just the way it's presented. I have a 2000 Chevy Cavalier with a noise in the rear. I've replaced the rear brakes, but I still have the noise. This is where a little bit of information would really help out. Now you say you replace the brakes, so that's kind of instantly going to rule that out. It would help to know what kind of noise, at what speeds, does the noise change when you're turning left and right or going on an off-ramp. By the little bit of information you told me about your Cavalier kind of leads me to think you possibly more than likely have a wheel bearing issue. If you're driving the car and you take a left-hand corner on an on-ramp and it gets louder, that means your right rear bearing, it's opposite. Weight loading loads up one side of the car, puts more weight on those bearings. If those bearings are loud, they're going to get louder. And just like taking a sharp right-hand corner, that means the left side. So it sounds like you might have a wheel bearing issue, but you could also have a tire issue. Wheel bearings kind of sound like a rumbling, and they can sound like a bad tire, like really scalloped tires. So I would say look at your tires, make sure you got a nice wear, even wear on your rear tires, and if that looks good, jack up one side of the Cavalier and just spin the rear wheel and see if you hear it. That way you'll know which side and have more of an idea. I wish I could give you a little better answer, but I think with the information you gave me, that's probably the best I can do with that. Number 2. Now this one's kind of strange. My Saab 9000 pisses me off after I've had 7 beers. My Saab 9000 doesn't piss me off after I've had 7 beers. It doesn't. Nothing pisses me off after I've had 7 beers. It sounds like what you were alluding to with some noises when you start it up. It shakes and rattles and makes some clunking noises when you're driving on and off the gas. It sounds to me, and you mentioned it too, that your motor and tranny mounts look like crap. Well, what happens is when those motor and tranny mounts aren't holding the engine in the position it's supposed to be, it's going to lean one way or the other. It's going to torque on your exhaust and stress all those mounts. So I believe what you're feeling is just the exhaust being kind of stretched like it doesn't like to be, and that will send vibration and rattles right through the whole car. So maybe cut down on the beer and worry about the car when you're drinking the beers. Number one, early 2000s Honda transmission issues. This was directed from an Acura, someone who likes the look of the early 2000 Acuras, but are leery about the transmission being an issue. And that is a very valid thing to worry about on early 2000 Hondas. Let me tell you a couple stories here. I've actually got 2 stories from my time working at a Honda dealership. It was 2004. I left working for Mazda for certain reasons, which is a great question to ask me why I left Mazda. And I went right next door. I left Mazda, I quit, went right to Honda dealer, and they hired me right on the spot. And at my time, it was a year I spent there, I have never replaced or rebuilt more transmissions in my career ever. We had a recall on the Honda Odysseys, which is a transmission that's used in a lot of Hondas. And what was happening is one of the drums wasn't being lubricated properly. It would overheat, and you'd be cruising down the highway 65, 70 miles an hour just fine 1 minute. The next minute, your front wheels lock up. And it was a problem. It happened not a lot of times, not enough times for the media to get in a craze, but it was enough time for the dealerships and the manufacturer to get in touch with the dealerships and say, we got to take care of this before someone dies. And the fix for that, believe it or not, was to take the tranny cooler lines and reroute one of them to the top of the transmission to one of the fill diagnostic inspection ports, and we had to put a little sprayer in. We had to, before we did that, we had to put a rig on and actually had a digital camera where we had to take a picture of the internals of the transmission through a little hole. It was a rig that held a special camera. We had to document each one of them just in case someone died. We could say, hey, this was all right, and it's not the cause. If that drum we looked in was scorched, then they got a new tranny. And that was a recall I don't think a lot of people heard about on those Odysseys. And I can imagine driving, your minivan down the highway 70 miles an hour and your front wheels lock up. That's pretty serious. That's pretty serious. So yeah, automatic transmissions from Hondas in the early 2000s aren't really the most solid things. Another thing we had, neither is there manuals from that time. Some of the manuals in the Civic SIs with that little chicken sticker shifter hanging out the dashboard. Something about that car would always burn third gear synchros. I had cars with 15,000 miles where the third gear synchro was just smoked, and you had to take the tranny all apart. Now, there was a time when I was there where I had, at any time, 5 cars out on the parking lot with the transmissions out of them, waiting for parts to come in. This one day I had 4 of them at one time set up, and the parts all came in for these cars at once. So I took a couple of our big, at the time we had some big tables to set up, what they use at like a yard sale or a swap meet, those tables with the legs fold down. I had 3 of those, one in the back of my bag, I had a car in my bag, one of those tables on one side, one on the other, and one on the other. Each one had one had one tran, the other had 2 transmissions here and there, parts everywhere, gears here, synchros there, cases over here. Each one categorized so all the parts for that tranny went back into that tranny. The general manager comes out into the shop that day, looks at my bay and sees what I got going on. He walks over, looks me in the eye, and goes, "What are we having, a yard sale here today?" And it was pretty funny. We had a good laugh over that, but he knew what I was doing. And all those cars rolled out of there within the next few days. I mean, I got the trannies built that day, then the trannies put in. So Hondas of the early 2000s, the transmissions are something to to worry about, especially the automatics and especially the SIs. You know, make sure that third gear synchro goes in and out of third gear. If you're going to buy an Acura or a Honda from this time, look at the tranny fluid. Make sure it's clean. Make sure it shifts right. Make sure there's no clunking or banging, because that's really what would happen. The fluid would get dirty and they would start to clunk and bang, and then that would be it. You need a new tranny. So anyways, that was 10 questions and a field trip, and I hope that answered pretty much what you guys had on the Sonet. If you guys want to ask 10 more questions down in the comments, we'll get them answered next week. So if you're going to ask car questions, just make sure you give as much information as you can. I read all the comments. As you can tell, I read the comments and answer your questions, and I'll continue to do this. And another thing I got going, I got a film right now, is another 10 list. Sometime this week there'll be another 10 list, top 10 questions to ask a used car. So I hope this has been entertaining and informative. And until next time, guys, thanks for watching. Keep it out of the cabbage.